If you're looking for quality seafood with friendly service, then the Fish Shack is the place for you. We're fast, fresh, and convenient, and ready to serve you today. You can order online and come in, or pick up your food curbside. We have outdoor seating as well. Need something to cool your taste buds? We have tasty daiquiris that you're sure to love. So come see us today at the Fish Shack in Byram, where we have great seafood and good daiquiris.
This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here are the BCSN Sports Wrap, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the Pregame Show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
And he picks up a first down.
And I'm going to go back to, we talked to our friends, Charles Bishop and Neely. They follow Jackson State football and having dinner with them. I mean, they said this team feels like nobody can score 3 times on them. 3 times. He didn't say if it was 3 field goals, 3 touchdowns. Prairie View has scored twice. Touchdown, field goal. That's how good this defense is. And, whoa, they are as good as advertised. 4th best in all of FCS.
It got to get to the point where whoever we're doing the broadcast that week of the game, they're going to have to sit down with y'all because y'all know us better than everybody.
Sure.
And y'all know some of the inside stuff
We do.
that I may not tell them because I don't trust them, but
Sure. Trust us.
trust y'all.
We appreciate that
We
trust.
appreciate that, Coach.
Much love, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and for all those who's listening and watching it from around the world. And we are now live from the corner of Dalton and Lynch Street. It's the show where we take you inside the game before the game begins. It's the Pregame with your host, Charles Bishop and Neely. So get ready because we pregame harder than the other show's party. It's the Pregame.
And welcome into the Pregame Show here on the Black College Sports Network. We're coming to you from the historic Fair Street District here at Johnny T's. And I tell you, my partner Neely, it is our year in review show when we take a look here at Jackson State Athletics. And I tell you what, Neely, it has been one of the most exciting years, I think, in Jackson State Athletics in quite some time. And it has been an honor and a privilege to cover it all. We started back in spring, February, and we've come to this point here in December, taking a look at Jackson State Athletics. It has been a heck of a ride, buddy.
It has been, man. It's been one big blur. This has been 2 football seasons in a calendar year, some historic things that happened with Lady Tigers basketball, with baseball. And we're going to get into all of that and then some on tonight's show, because tonight's show is about looking back in 2021. What were those big stories to come out of Jackson State athletics in this calendar year? And Chuck, when you get to December, you forget about things that were in May. You forget about things that were in March. You forget that we had a football season this spring. You forget that we had an ice storm and we were without water and we had tornadoes, floods, and a pandemic that's still going on. So much happened in Jackson State athletics for the year 2021. that we just wanted to make sure that we did this, go out on a note where we look back on the year, Chuck, and what better place to do it from than where we used to do the live shows during the spring, right back here at Johnny T's upstairs in the Renaissance room. You know, you could always count on us to be here Friday nights before those home games, and especially Saturday nights after those home games. What better place, Chuck, to do this year review show right here at Johnny T's?
What better place? They have been tremendous to the pregame show in terms of feeding us, make sure we're well fed, well drink,
and well hydrated.
Exactly. But I tell you what, it has been a phenomenal year when you take a look at the breadth of Jackson State athletics. And, you know, we had an issue trying to narrow things down into a sort of a top 10 list because it has been so historic. It has been so much.
We had such an issue doing it that we didn't do it. We let the computer do it. We tell you guys all the time, and y'all are very good about it. Hey, like, share, comment, subscribe. So we just went through the algorithms and said, let's look at those top 10 things that got the most juice this year. What got the most comments? What got the most likes, the most shares? What had people talking the most? And we ranked those things 10 through 1. I was kind of surprised some of the things that were left out when we get through this list. I was also surprised at some of the things that made it, but we didn't make it. This is your guys. This is your list because it's based off your comments, your likes, your shares, your subscribes. What was Tiger Nation talking about January through December of 2021 in athletics?
Is there a moment? Is there a time period? Is there something that sticks out in your head?
Man, it's so much of a blur that I really have to just go back to that spring football season because in that spring football season, you had the Lady Tigers recognized during a football game for winning a championship.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen often in sports history where you have a football game taking place at the same time that somebody was on the way to win a championship and win a championship. So there's a lot of little ancillary stories, man. Who can forget the ice storm that hit the city just as we were getting ready to have the kickoff of the season. We navigated all of this during the pandemic. Chuck, how many times do we have something stuck up our nose in 2021? We did our due diligence in promoting the safety, how to navigate during the pandemic, promoting the vaccines on this show.
And continue to do it. Yeah.
Oh, yes. So it's vitally important. So when you asked about that one moment for me, you really have to take this year in chunks because there was so much going on. You know, football is the bell cow. It's the drum major for athletics, and there really was no off season this year.
It really wasn't. I mean, when we started the pregame show back in February, and I have to take my hats off to all of our Jackson State fan base, the SWAC fan base. You have poured so much into this program, poured so much love into us. We want to just start the show off by thanking you, the Jackson State fan, the SWAC fan, for really appreciating the work that we're putting in and everything that we're trying to do with regards to Jackson State athletics. So I want to start right there.
Sure. And in that same vein, I have to start with JSU athletics. As you like to say, the vice president of intercollegiate athletics. I just say athletic director. Ashley Robinson and his leadership, Coach Prime, and what he did with the program to open up the doors for the pregame show and then access Coach Brent and Coach Reed and Coach Burke over in the basketball programs. So many things happened, this year that allowed us to be able to show the world, show our fan base, Tiger Nation, and show the HBCU space what was taking place at 1400 Lynch Street. And man, it went hook, line, and sinker. And we're looking forward to 2022, but it's time to reflect on 2021, Chuck.
Let's reflect on 2021. There was a lot of deals, and you said we took a look at it from an analytical standpoint. What was our Jackson State fan base talking about? And we were going to count it down from 10 to 1. So let's start at number 10, AD. Let's take a look at the number 10 story that really popped up for a lot of our Jackson State fan base. And let's start with Coach Omar Johnson in the Jackson State baseball season. A phenomenal season when you take a look at the baseball team. 24-0 in conference play, 34-9 overall, it was a tremendous season for Jackson State baseball. Came up short in the SWAC championship game, but nonetheless, a historic season.
Was a historic season. I'm laughing because I got a glimpse at the rest of the list. I hadn't seen it before. It's kind of like when you catch your mom and them wrapping the Christmas gifts. So when the screen flashed, I was like, oh man, I didn't know that made the list. But yeah, that historic baseball season, man, unbelievable. Came up a little short when we got over to that SWAC tournament, but it does not take away from what those guys were able to accomplish for Jackson State baseball this spring. So much so that when you look at all the things that happened in the JSU athletic space, it is the 10th most talked about story. It generated a lot of chatter. And again, that was something that was taking place during the spring season.
Yeah, it took place during the spring season. And when you take a look at that SWAC championship game, you take your hats off to Southern. They did what they needed to do to get the victory. But again, we were following this Jackson State baseball team through the course of the spring, during the course of football season of the spring, and what they were accomplishing. We definitely wanted to make sure that was highlighted. And from an algorithm standpoint, our Jackson State fans, they were very much into this Jackson State to the 2022 for this dynamic baseball team and what they're able to push for this upcoming season. I tell you what, the hurdle playing SWAC East, and now you add Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman, two really great baseball programs. It's going to be a very 2022 baseball season. But I tell you what, it was fun watching that baseball cheer for all my baseball fans, man. Get out to the Bob, get out to Coach Bob Brady Field and catch this baseball team.
Yeah, Chuck, I think you hit it on the head, man, that as phenomenal as 2021 was for JSU baseball, totally regrouped, ready to do it again for 2022. But the addition of those Florida teams and how big baseball is in Florida, it's going to be interesting to see what impact the FAMU and Bethune-Cookman have on this SWAC baseball landscape this year. Of course, we still believe in Jackson State Tigers are not only going to have another record-breaking regular season, but also going to get it done in the tournament as well.
Going to get it done in the tournament. Counting on it. Counting on Coach Omar Johnson, one of the premier baseball coaches, not only in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, but in the country. So looking forward to it. We moved to graphic number 9. Neely, we started the season off, man. Fall. It was the return of the Orange Blossom Classic. We were embedded with this football team this past season. And what better way to kick this season off, this fall football season, against the Florida A&M Rattlers in Miami. It was a tremendous experience, buddy.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that the Orange Blossom Classic, the resurgence of it, made this list as far as what our fans talked about this year. It's been so long since Jackson State and FAMU were in that game and in that game together, and everybody was looking forward to Labor Day weekend 2021. And it's even better for 2022 because when you look at what these two programs accomplished after that game, FAMU did not lose another SWAC game after taking that L from us. Jackson State did not lose a SWAC game at all. They meet again Labor Day weekend 2022 in Miami. Orange Blossom Classic is once again, I think, going to be the talk of the 2022 season because it's two SWAC East opponents kicking off the season. And if you look back at the 2021, Chuck, that one game made all the difference. We won that game by 1 point, and had it gone the other way, our season would have been much different.
Both coaches, Coach Prime, Coach Willie Simmons, they talked about the importance of that game one, and they both said the winner of this game could be represented not only in the SWAC East, but represented for the Celebration Bowl. Both coaches knew that their teams were coming in strong, ready for bear, and we were fortunate. We were able to get that win, game one in the Orange Blossom Classic over Florida A&M Rattlers, and it is the beginning of a tremendous rivalry with this Florida A&M fan base.
So much so that we're going to do it again. We're going to do it again Labor Day 2022, and it's going to be a big weekend Labor Day weekend in Miami, because you have Bethune-Cookman, who will be playing the University of Miami in Hard Rock Stadium 24 hours before we play FAMU. So there's going to be a lot of bands, historic bands in town, a lot of HBCU fans. So it is not too early to start making plans for 2022 Orange Blossom Classic, because in 2021, it was the number 9 story in Jackson State athletics.
Number 9 story in Jackson State athletics. Sonic Boom and the Marching 100 going to get ready to go at it again 2022. Looking forward to it. Tickets already on sale. Let's take a look. The number 8 story. 55,000 Jackson State versus Alcorn, the Soul Bowl 2021. Neely, it reminded me of the days of when Steve McNair was rolling around over there at Alcorn, man. Both fan bases turned out for this game. It was one of the largest attended HBCU games of the year, Jackson State versus Auburn.
It was one of the largest games in attendance of the year. You know, that was a phenomenal crowd. We were able to put some things in place to navigate gathering in a pandemic, and we had 50,000, 55,000 come to the Soul Bowl in Jackson, Mississippi. You know, everyone was hoping and anticipating that Alcorn might be undefeated, just like we were by the time that game took place. That didn't happen, but it did not change the hunger and the thirst for that game, for that rivalry. It got reignited this year. The Soul Bowl made the top 10 in moments in Jackson State athletics. And when you look at that crowd and watch that game, not surprising at all.
Not surprising, and you could feel the energy from the second we walked in to the stadium that day. Just tremendous. I think I took a look around, and it was like lines of people at 8 a.m. Waiting to get into the turnstiles for that game. I mean, it was the most beautiful thing to watch. It was the HBCU culture at its best. Both rabid fan bases. You had the tailgating, you had lines waiting, you had the bands marching in, and by the time you got to kickoff, it was at such a fever pitch. It was tremendous.
And for the record, Chuck, I actually referred to them as Alcorn and not opt-out U, because I told you they were going to be opt-out U until they returned and played the season. They played the season Alcorn, playing over in the West now. You know, so things shaped up to where it was in the mathematical possibility, even probability, that we could face them for the Soul Bowl and a few days later for the SWAC championship. That didn't happen, turned out to be Prairie View, but it did not take away from the excitement of the Soul Bowl. Number 8, and the most talked about things in this pregame show space, the Soul Bowl.
The Soul Bowl, number 8. We moved to the number 7 graphic, AD, the number 7 story that generated a lot of buzz. This Jackson State Tiger defense. Yeah. It was historic in so many ways, Neely. It was fun watching these guys fly around all season.
I hate to jump ahead, but I'm sitting here wondering what could 6 through 1 be if Tiger defense is number 7, because I remember all the chatter all year long, whether it's on the Instagram pages, a YouTube page, or Facebook page, talking about this phenomenal JSU defense. Now, Chuck, you and I had a little back and forth, tit for tat, a little war to words, because I was saying all along that the 2021 Tiger defense, fall defense, was the greatest defense in Jackson State history. Of course, that rubbed people wrong way, because we love our history, love our ghosts, love our former players. Like, no. But I think when you got to the end of the season, statistics showed how close to being right I was.
Statistically, this defense did during the regular season and SWAC championship game, they did not give up more than 21 points. I think 21 points was the most scored on this defense. Texas Southern, I remember that game, and Texas Southern didn't score in the second half. We had to go all the way back to the Mississippi Valley State game, where a team had scored in the fourth quarter, even on this defense. They were number 2 in the nation. They led the nation in sacks. James Houston became a household name. Aubrey Miller became a household name. Shiloh Sanders, CEO of the Headache Game, became a household name. This Jackson State defense was special in so many ways, and they came up big all throughout the season.
And hats off to defense coordinator Dennis Thurman, his defensive staff, particularly defensive line coach Jeff Weeks, the secondary coach Kevin Mathis. They had those guys ready to play. And every week there was another name being called, Antoine Owens, Katron Evans. That it was so much more than Aubrey Miller, who has announced he's coming back, and James Houston, who has announced he is going to declare and prepare for the NFL draft. But no fret, because the Tigers have reloaded, and we got some stuff under that proverbial Christmas tree that's going to be announced in January, looking for that defense to be just as good, great, if not even better. But Chuck, I think that those guys still ended up holding opponents to less than 13 points a game. And as you mentioned, only giving up 21 points once, and didn't give up any after halftime in that particular game. And we went on about a 5-game streak of nobody scoring in the fourth quarter. Now, I know we got the Kevin Dents out the world, and we got the
Andre Lloyds
and the Connors. So I'm not going player by player and saying this guy's better than that guy, but I'm telling you, the fall 2021 defensive unit, it's going to be one of those ones, history, when we get down the road, people are going to look back on it and talk about that defense like we talk about 96 and 86 and 84. It was a special group of guys out there.
Special group of guys, and in so many ways, they compared to that 87 defense that everybody remembers going against that USM team that sacked Brett Favre 7 or 8 times in that game. That 96 95 Black College National Championship team featuring Sean Woodson, Quincy Coleman, Bo Lewis, Chad Ford, who's been on the pregame show quite often. So it was just a phenomenal watch all throughout the season, watching that Jackson State defense. Looking forward to some more in 2022.
And you're telling me the defense was what was defense? Number 7?
Defense was number 7. Yeah.
Defense didn't make top 5, man. Well, I got to again. It's algorithms. It's what people retweet. It's what they type. It's what they comment on. What they share. Not Neely's opinion. Not Chuck's opinion. It's the computer's opinion. So we'll take it. Jack State defense, number 7, most talked about in the pregame show for 2021 athletic year.
Sure thing. Let's take a look at number 6. One of the most talked about stories of the season, Coach Prime. He missed some games in the middle of the season, some health issues, and this became a showcase, if you will, for the Jackson State staff. Coach Fleet, Coach Garrett Harrell, took over the reins and shepherded this team through that tough stretch.
Yeah, I like that, man. I could see that making it, because there were so many. If you look at computer algorithms, so much was mentioned in the way of pulling for and praying for Coach Prime. But also, as you just said, Chuck, it was the coming out and the introduction, at least to the SWAC and the southern region of the country, HBCU space, to Coach Flea, Coach Gary Harrell. He's a known entity on the East Coast. He's a Miami guy, played at Howard, coached at Howard, was head coach at Howard. But people got to see who Coach Prime trusted the program to in his absence. And so for me, it's not so much about Coach Prime missing games, it's so much as it is people getting to see the staff that he's assembled, and all the time that Coach Prime was out and still highly involved as best he could be while he was out. But Coach Flea did a wonderful job. Coach Gary Harrell did a wonderful job leading Tiger Nation still through that stretch, still unscathed. In the SWAC, went up there with a tough game in Valley, on the road, because Valley's a tough team to play. And I think people saw that before us, and after that, Coach Dance, the JSU guy, played here and coached here, and he has those guys ready to play. And I think that's where the world really got to see, Coach Flea knows what he's doing. Yeah,
no doubt. And we had an up-close view of watching that staff really come together, even more so during Coach Prime's absence, and really, the beat was not dropped. This team continued to play lights out football, continued to do what they needed to do to get these victories until Coach Prime was well enough to come back on the sideline, came back on the sideline. That Southern game was playing down in that tough environment. But I tell you what, you take your hat off to the staff during that time period that Coach Prime listened.
And you kind of have to put all that together. I'm not making assumptions for the computer, but when you talk about Coach Prime and the games he missed, it's a gumbo of Coach Prime being out, Coach Flea leading the team, and Coach Prime returning for that Southern game, because algorithmically it's going to pick up on all those stories, likes and shares and retweets. So that was a phenomenal part of the season, a part of this academic athletic year, this sports calendar, if you will, to have your head coach have to take some time off, but the program not miss a beat. And that's the kind of staff you want to assemble. Hats off to Coach Prime, hats off to Coach Flea and the rest of the staff. Hey, man, they did the damn thing during that stretch.
Hey, they did it during that stretch, man. And that leads us to the number 5 story. The number 5 story, algorithmically. Got it.
Yeah.
It was the TCU rumor, man. It was that was big. That was big.
Oh my God.
We were fielding inboxes.
Let me take a sip, Chuck, before we get into this one. Man.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Top five.
Yeah.
Not surprised.
Yeah.
Not surprised. National news.
Sure.
Tiger Nation, Tiger haters, everybody was talking about it. Everybody was saying he was leaving. And I tell you, Chuck, one of those things, man, that was interesting about that time period, and I say this personally and professionally, knowing what Coach Prime was going through and respecting the privacy of what he was going through. The ultimate defense existed to where we knew those rumors weren't true. But you could not put on that defense statement until he wanted to put on that defense statement. So you just had to sit back and listen to this crap that was coming from everywhere. But Chuck, the thing is, for me, looking back on it, and even at the time, one of the things we got to understand, and I talked about this on a previous show during their time, man, when you're dating a bad chick, people going to come at her.
Not very much so.
Yeah, you can't be insecure and date a bad chick. And so rumors like this, although unfounded at the time, rumors like this are always going to occur because we have somebody that other people want.
Correct.
And one of the disappointing times in that time period was when folks were giving the story credibility because there was a lack of a counterpoint, lack of response. And we don't need to put anybody in a position that a lie unchallenged becomes the truth.
That's just
because there was no counterpoint. Well, it must be true. I hadn't heard from him. Or, Coach Flea hadn't said anything, or the pregame show had, people are going to make up rumors, make up stuff, start turmoil. But Chuck, I am not surprised that the TCU rumors are in the top 10, let alone the top 5, top 7, whatever, because man, it was something that was crazy 2 weeks.
And you made a great point during that time, like you mentioned, because there was not a counter narrative to that rumor going about. Then people just picked it up and ran with it and assumed it to be true. Yeah. It was a challenging couple of weeks there in terms of just navigating, especially when you knew what the real story was.
Dog, they picked it up and ran with it so much it had me doubting what I believed and what I do for a fact. Like, man, dude, I know what I know, but y'all saying it so much. But I had to realize, no.
Let it ride.
I know what I know.
Right.
And soon enough, the world will know too. And as you can see here, as we close out sports year 2021 here in December, coming up on January 1st, Coach Prime is still with us and has articulated very well that he is not interested in going anywhere. There's unfinished business here at Jackson State. But the TCU rumor did take a life of its own, and algorithmically and perception wise, I am not surprised that it ranks high on the 2021 stories from the pregame show. What the computer says our fan base was talking about.
The TCU rumor comes in at number 5. Let's take a look at the number 4 top story for the pregame show this past year was the turf field. This was huge in terms of when we were able to first see glimpses of this turf field. And I tell you what, there were a lot of former Jackson State players. There was a lot of pride beaming with now having this this practice surface that did not look like the former practice surface, to be quite honest with you. Didn't have to worry about rain and things of that nature, but it was beautiful to watch them install it. And there's even more work going on over there.
I tell you, Chuck, let me say this ancillary. I am elated that a positive story beat out a negative story. You know, that we still have 4 things that got more traction than a TCU rumor, and that turf field being aided by some of Coach Prime's partners, such as Walmart and the NFL, for us to now have that upgrade at the facility. And you think about, Chuck, going into the Orange Blossom Classic, and so many times this fall, we were able to still practice that we have never been able to do in decades in the past, seasons in the past, that we were able to still get out there an hour after rain, the day after rain, and still get working in. And Coach Prime and Athletic Director Ashley Robinson are not done. There are more upgrades coming in on the way, but that turf field, when it was unveiled on the pregame show, it was a hell of a story and lots of chatter about that. So not surprised that it made top 5 on this list.
Tremendous chatter, and it is a beautiful turf field to look at. A big Jackson State logo right in the middle of it.
Do you remember we were out there, man, and Coach Prime, it's on the episode of the pregame show, he picked up a piece and compared it to a lace front and talked about how thick it was. We weren't actually on it yet at that point. It was still being sold installed, in, if you will. Installed. Yeah. But hey, Chuck, speaking of that turf field, man, what about the people that hit the roof when they saw that light blue, that Sonic Boom blue stretch?
I knew you were gonna go there.
Nah, Chuck, I didn't make this list.
I knew you were gonna mention that Sonic Boom blue back there. I knew you were gonna mention
How can we not mention it? It was talked about. The fans, the chatter says that the turf field was what we're on number 4, the 4th biggest story, algorithm wise, and I'm sure laced in there, pun intended, was people going off when they saw that light blue strip. And I had to remind them, you know, the Sonic Boom uniform got some light blue in it. It's just about 3 yards wide and 20 yards long. It's not a big deal.
It's a little ancillary piece of the turf. It's
really. Do you remember when Lex Luthor, Gene Hackman, Lex Luthor, was going to knock off California and create a new coastline? The blue out there is really like Otisburg. It's not. It's just, you got Lexville and Luthertropolis. Miss Chexbacher had a town. It is just Otisburg, man. It's just Otisburg, man.
People wanted Otisburg wiped off the map, man.
Yeah, they wanted that light blue up.
Went over some people's heads there with Superman reference. So,
oh man, yeah. Well, we kind of aged ourselves because that's like, I know, right? 85, 84 Superman. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
But turf field, man, phenomenal project. Hats off to the athletic department, Coach Prime's leadership, partners like Walmart, partners like NFL. So many that played a role in getting that upgrade where our guys can practice shortly after the weather. It is well maintained. It's a great look, great recruiting tool, and we are not done upgrading JSU practice facilities in the surrounding area.
Yeah, not done. That's the big theme of that with regards to the turf field. As we move to our number 3 story here for the pregame show.
What is it, Chuck? What is it?
Huge story. Jackson State women's basketball. Buddy, Coach Tamika Reed and the championship Lady Tigers. They put on a show.
Take another sip on that one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Tremendous game to win that SWAC championship over a tough game Alabama State team. I tell you what, they were special to watch all season.
Man, special to watch, special players. A lot of those special players are back for this 2022 campaign, if you will. Looking forward to repeating something that is becoming just a commonplace in that Lady Tigers basketball. But I'm not surprised, Chuck, that this made, top 3 on the list.
Sure.
As people support and love Coach Reed and what she has built and is building over there. This year, going into this season, there have been some staff changes. So this is a new look, Lady Tigers, if you will, adding in some new pieces, have had a very successful November, December, if you will. And
yes,
hey,
indeed.
man, next week when we get into the new year, it's official. The SWAC season starts, and they are predicted to do very well again. But that 2021 Lady Tigers basketball team was special.
Amisha Williams, Deja Rogan. I tell you what, they were a tremendous 1-2 punch for that Lady Tigers basketball team. And, you know, when you take a look at it, what sticks out to me, the defensive side of the court, they really go after it. They rebound both offensively and defensively. They really get after it. It's a great product to watch. It was, you know, they became the show. You wanted to get there early.
Yeah.
See this Jackson State women's basketball team.
Yeah, and speaking of getting there early, man, there were some challenges getting there because they had to play that in half full arenas. They didn't get the support during the pandemic that they typically would have. So that's why supporting that JSU Tiger network, that sports network, to be able to watch these games when you're not around, because who knows what's going to even happen this spring as the pandemic is reemerging and spiking back up in some ways. But Chuck, I just thought of something, man. I'm going to get an Amisha jersey and get you a Rogan jersey, because, you know, we did little and the big, the pregame show, man. Hey, man, the point got to feed the post, baby. Feed the post.
Feed the post. The boy got to feed the post. Exactly.
But that season, hats off again to the Lady Tigers under the leadership of Coach Tamika Reed, winning the 2021 SWAC championship. Man, phenomenal regular season, went into that tournament and took them on toe to toe and fought and did what they had to do and added yet another banner, another set of rings to this rich history of JSU athletics. Lady Tigers, number 3 sports story in the 2021 Jackson State athletic year.
Lady Tigers, the number 3 sports story. Can't say enough about Coach Tamika Reed, Rich Bradley, all that they've done with their program, waking up the echoes of the great Sadie McGee team. So it's tremendous.
Well, hey, Chuck, you be dropping. Yeah, I see you, Chuck.
Let's move to the number 2 story, one of the biggest stories on the pregame show, and this was recent. Travis Hunter, one of the number 1 recruit in the nation, says he's coming to the I Love Jackson State University. Man, I tell you what, national headline.
Yeah, not too long ago of a story, but big enough that it made the top 10 pregame show top stories, and even made the top 5 and top 3, as you can see. And Chuck, we were there when this young man came on his official visit, and that was story enough of itself to have the number 1 player or the number 1 at a particular position visiting an HBCU on an official visit. It was huge. Days later, weeks later, he officially announced he was coming to Jackson State. Shockwaves went through the sports world, much like the TCU rumors did. It made national news. People were talking about it. You were either hating it or loving it, but it got a lot of emotions out of people. And it was very interesting to see the reactions in the national sports media to this story happening. But Travis Hunter selecting Jackson State, number 1 player in the nation, number 2 player on some polls, but definitely the number 1 cornerback in the nation, who is poised to play both sides of the ball when he gets to the Jackson State. One of the top stories. I can believe it. I see that happening. I'm not surprised that it made the list at this high.
You know, Neely, we've seen athletes talk about HBCUs where they put them on the list, but to actually see a top athlete that everybody in the country wants, not only put HBCU on the list, but say, you know what? No, I want to change the narrative. It's a tremendous story for a young man of that age.
Tremendous.
To want to change the narrative and to buy into the leveling the playing field.
Sure.
And coming forth. So that was a huge, huge story.
And I don't want it to get lost because we're talking about 2021 this year, but it was in December of 2020 that you had a caliber of athletes do the same thing. That group that Shedeur Sanders was a part of, those quote unquote 12 disciples who really led the way in saying, no, we're coming by choice, and it will lead to others. And who would have thought that just 12 months later into the next calendar year, Travis Hunter, the number 1 player in the nation, comes on an official visit and chooses Jackson State. And a week after that, another highly touted recruit is saying, hey, because of him, I'm going to consider FAMU. I'm going to go on an official visit there. It opened my eyes. So Coach Prime has always said that this is not just about Jackson State, that this is about HBCUs because HBCUs matter. And we're just 12 months into this thing. If you go back to December 2020, when that first class signed during early signing period, here we are a year later, landscape and the narrative already changing.
You said it back in the spring, rising tide
lifts all boats.
Yes, indeed. Huge story.
And I'm going to lift my, what's this, a Rick James? I'm going to lift my Rick James to the number one recruit coming to Jackson State.
Hey, man, that is a huge story. And guess what? There's some more under the Christmas tree. So
yeah,
looking forward to 2022. Yes, indeed. And we move to the number one story for this past season, for the pregame show, for this past year. For the pregame show. AD, little drum roll, please, for the number one story. I tell you what, special season. Jackson State wins the SWAC championship.
Yeah.
First time since 2007. I tell you what, buddy, and this is how special it was for me. If you go back to when the SWAC championship started in 1999, if you had told me Jackson State would only have one or two SWAC championships during this SWAC championship era, I would have giggled you out of the room.
You'd have been like that white congressman that yelled, "You lied, Obama." you say you lied. Because it would have been unbelievable, Chuck. Yeah, it would have been unbelievable when you looked at our dominance in the 80s and the 90s. And as you said, when we moved to this SWAC championship, true SWAC championship, if you will, a game being played for it in 99. Who would have known we'd have gone on such a drought? Yeah. Such a drought.
Yeah. When you take a look at it, Jackson State being in the SWAC championship 1999, 2007, they went in. Back again in 2008, lost to Grambling. 2012, lost to Pine Bluff. 2013, lost to Southern. But just 2013, they have not been in the mix. And when you take a look at the breadth of this, Coach Prime comes in 2020 and sets out and says, this is what the game plan is. He lays out the strategy. We go through the spring season, successful in some ways, but sure. I think the big started going back to the Orange Blossom Classic. They were able to get the win against Florida A&M and run the table in the SWAC. You said it at Celebration Bowl. That SWAC championship matters. It matters. It has to matter for our fan base. We can't overlook it. It was historic. First time since 2013 we've even been in the SWAC championship, even be in the mix, but you got the trophy. This fan base demands trophies. They were able to hoist the trophy.
And I like the manner in which we did it, Chuck. Undefeated.
Yeah.
We were undefeated in the SWAC on the way to capturing the SWAC, and nobody got us this fall. Nobody got us in the SWAC this fall. We won the SWAC championship, won it undefeated fashion. When you look at the spring season, so many lessons were learned. You talk to Coach Dennis Thurman, defense coordinator, he'll tell you that he wasn't so much evaluating guys on the team. He was looking at our opponents and seeing what needed to be put together to make sure that we could go undefeated. So there was a lot of things necessary that took place in the spring that put us on the path to the SWAC championship. But I tell you, Chuck, the most optimistic believer, if you will, I don't know if anybody predicted undefeated.
Yeah, that's true.
First fall season, not knowing what the pandemic is going to be like, freshman quarterback coming off a spring season that did not end the way you thought it would. Start off at Miami with to just field goals, but lose the game. We battled a little bit with Delta State. You know, we won the game, but it was a tough game. And I really think if you look in that first four windows, I don't know if a lot of people believe, Chuck.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I don't know if a lot of people believe. You know, we were undefeated in the SWAC 4 games in, but it was a 7-6 victory.
Yeah.
But by the time we hit October, you and I always talked about on the show that how much October was going to matter. By the time we hit October and this team really clicked, it was just clear, particularly after that Alabama A&M game. We went to Huntsville.
Oh, my goodness.
It was clear what we had. It was clear what we had and what this team could do. And went through the SWAC undefeated, SWAC championship. And it's Chuck, as much as I personally believed and wanted us to win the Celebration Bowl, losing the Celebration Bowl does not take away one iota what these guys accomplished in winning that SWAC championship and the fashion that they won it.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of fans, losing the Celebration Bowl wasn't the closure, that they needed. But as you so eloquently put it, winning that SWAC championship, it mattered to even get to the Celebration Bowl. Wasn't quite able to close the door in the Celebration Bowl. Hats off to South Carolina State.
Oh, yeah.
Great job, Buddy Pugh. But for the first time since 2013, Jackson State football was even in the mix. And to go out and go get the SWAC championship, that was huge for this fan base, this passionate fan base that demands SWAC championships.
Hey, man, that was a pretty good top 10 list generated by the computer. There were some things that, I would have assumed have been it. I thought more from the spring season, might have been it. But I think as time went on, the conversations that were had on the pregame show social media pages probably elevated in the summer and the spring and eclipsed the numbers of what was taking place in the spring. I mean, the summer and the fall. So I could see some of that getting bumped out. But, the spring season, was historic. It did make the list. But when you look at that top 10, even though it's computer generated based on traffic and what people are talking about, hard to argue with it.
Yeah, I mean, when you take a look at it, and these are definitely honorable mentions that just the computer rankings were what they were. But Coach Rose Washington and Jackson State volleyball team, championship in the spring, right there in the mix in the fall, a 5-set thriller against Florida A&M, come up just short. Got a cross-country championship. Got to make sure we mention that. It was a banner year all throughout Jackson State sports, and, it was a banner year for the pregame show. There became a pregame show.
I think February 21st is our 1 year
February
anniversary.
21st. Yes,
we did our first live show on February 21st. We had done some things leading up to that, but that's when it officially rolled out. So we'll be coming up on a year, and in about 2 months, and it'll be recognizing that show. Certainly, in our minds, the pregame show is in the top 10. Student athletes, because none of this is possible without them. And the pregame show and all that we do exists for the betterment and benefit and promotion of our student athletes. So all of the wonderful programs who were playing sports this past winter in January and February, and this past spring, all the way through late spring, and came back this summer to get ready for the fall. Hats off to those student athletes. And let me be clear, Chucky, I know you know this, but I want to say it to our listeners out there. When I say student athletes, I'm talking about the Sonic Boom too. I'm talking about the cheerleaders as well, Sonny the Tiger. These are all students first, athletes second, and they do a hell of a Dr. Gaville inside the sports lab. I mean, you name it. So we would encourage everybody to download the Black College Sports Network app. You don't have to just run the ESPN or Yahoo Sports and look for what they're covering in this space. We have it covered. There's enough information out there from HBCU Game Day that we work with, all the way with the Black College Sports Network. Support these platforms, like, share, and subscribe to them as well. Chuck, we're getting ready to go into 2022, and we ain't letting off the gas.
We ain't letting off the gas. Going to keep the foot on the gas. AD, let's just take a quick review of our top stories according to the computer rankings for the pregame show. We started at number 10, Neely, it was the baseball regular season, undefeated regular season, 24-0 in SWAC play. Came up a little bit short in the SWAC championship, but a tremendous season nonetheless. Return of the Orange Blossom Classic was the number 9 story. Jackson State, Florida A&M. Jackson State able to get that 7-6 victory over Florida A&M, kicking off this championship season. The number 8 story was the Soul Bowl, 55,000 at the Soul Bowl. Great renewal of a tremendous rivalry between Jackson State and Alcorn. Number 7, the Jackson State Tiger defense, number 2 in the nation, led the nation in sacks, and household names: James Problem Houston, Aubrey Miller, Antoine Owens, Shiloh Sanders, CEO of the Headache Game. Just a tremendous year for the Jackson State defense. Number 6 story was Coach Prime missing games during the middle of the season. And we talked a little bit about Coach Gary Harrell. He was able to take the reins of that football team, and we watched his staff work very closely to keep this Jackson State championship season on track. The number 5 story was the TCU rumor that gave you and I extra helpings of Pepto-Bismol. As many texts and inboxes we got with regards to the TCU rumor. The number 4 story was, of course, the Jackson State improvement of their practice facilities, the turf field, the beautiful looking turf field. More to come in the upcoming years with regards to Jackson State improving their practice facilities, and a tremendous recruiting tool it is. Number 3, Coach Tamika Reed and that Jackson State women's basketball team looking for even bigger and better things for the Lady Tigers in 2022. The number 2 story, it just happened this past December. Travis Hunter, number 1 recruit in the nation, choosing Jackson State University. And of course, number 1 story was our Jackson State Tigers' first SWAC championship in football since 2007. It was a phenomenal year in Jackson State sports. And we mentioned Coach Rose Washington and Lady Volleyball Tigers. We mentioned spring, February 21, all the way up until now. And we're not taking our foot off the gas, buddy.
Not taking our foot off the gas, Chuck. Exceptional recap. Great year for JSU athletics for 2021. Looking forward to 2022 calendar year and all that's going to be in play. Going to get some more of these SWAC championships. Going to get some more exclusive content. Grow this brand and platform for the audience. Give you guys an even deeper look of what's taking place in JSU athletics. Can't thank our athletic director enough, Dr. Ashley Robinson. Our athletic director cannot thank Coach Prime and the reality. Chuck, we are here where it started to some degree at Johnny T's in the Renaissance Room, closing out December the way we started in February. You know, I guess we could have gone to the stadium today to do this show, but we did the show where we would do the post-game shows from Johnny T's historic Fast Street District. They're going to be open this New Year's Eve weekend. Y'all make sure if you're in Jackson, come by and check them out. Chuck, let me tell you this, brother. It has been a wonderful year with you.
Yes, it has.
I did not know in December of last year that this December you'll be trying to grow a beard and get like your boy Neely, but I see you working over there. I see it coming in. Prayers, vitamins, training, Chuck, just like Hulk Hogan used to say, keep those things going, brother. You too can have a beard and be in the beard game. Chuck and all, been a pleasure to work with you, man. Looking forward to 2022 in JSU Athletics with the pregame show.
I say this all the time, Neely. You're a tremendous partner to work with, but your insight, your relationships is second to none. It is a pleasure and an honor working with you. Looking forward to 2022 as we continue to grow this platform that is known as the Pregame Show. Thank you so much for sharing, and subscribing to us. We really appreciate all the well wishes and thank you. Close things out in the words of the great Coach Edward Lipson. We got a team, by golly. We're going to win, by golly. Go Tigers.
And he picks up a first down.
And I'm going to go back to, we talked to our friends, Charles Bishop and Neely. They follow Jackson State football and having dinner with them. I mean, they said this team feels like nobody can score 3 times on them. 3 times. He didn't say if it was 3 field goals, 3 touchdowns. Prairie View has scored twice. Touchdown, field goal. That's how good this defense is. And, whoa, they are as good as advertised. 4th best
in all of FCS.
It got to get to the point where whoever we're doing the broadcast that week of the game, they're going to have to sit down with y'all because y'all know us better than everybody. Sure. And y'all know some of the inside stuff that I may not tell them because I don't trust them, but
Trust us.
Okay. Trust y'all.
We appreciate that.
We
trust.
appreciate that, Coach. Much love, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, live from the corner of Dalton and Lynch Street. It's the show where we take you inside the game before the game begins. It's the Pregame. With your host, Charles Bishop and Neely. So get ready because we pregame harder than the other show's party. It's the Pregame.